Good day, everyone, and welcome to this Mobile World Congress 2021 conference session on 5G IoT for manufacturing. I'm Aruna Srinivasan, Director of IoT at the GSMA, and I'm really happy to be with you here today, along with our amazing lineup of speakers. To kick things off, I'd like to talk a bit about how the features of 5G can help achieve manufacturers' business drivers. We work very closely with manufacturers at the GSMA, and the things we hear from them are the importance, for example, of minimizing production line downtime. Every second lost is money, so it's critical to have secure, reliable, and scalable networks. Maximizing productivity and quality is, of course, key, and in some of these areas now, there is demand for high data and data-rich services, so having guaranteed bandwidth is a critical part of moving towards automation. Real-time decision-making is obviously a core component of moving towards Industry 4.0. So having ultra-low latency networks and capabilities such as edge computing is key. And increasingly, particularly with COVID, we're hearing about the importance of flexibility. For example, being able to change production lines to make new products more quickly, for example, face masks. And flexibility such as this also enables new business models such as factory as a service. So wireless networking is absolutely critical, being able to move your machines around very efficiently. And of course, cost effectiveness is critical in any business. And I think what's really interesting about 5G is the different types of, actually flexible business models available. For example, having a private network or perhaps a network slice of a public network gives you different options when it comes to CapEx and OpEx. Also different types of rollouts. For example, I just mentioned as a service business models, and all sorts of different partnerships that are being put together. Really brings a lot of flexibility into 5G IoT for manufacturing. 5G and IoT are influential across the value chain, from raw materials and processing through to the factory floor, component production, assembly, right through to distribution to the customer. For example, automation is actually a key part of IoT, having connected machines for diagnostics, remote monitoring, predictive maintenance, and bringing that automation to the factory floor. For quality, we're working with a lot of partners, for example, who have implemented image processing on their production lines in order to detect defects automatically. Also, connected tooling is a really key use case here, so being able to apply the right pressure, torque, and so on as you build your product. And having the data from these use cases helps you improve every day. Tracking, so connected tools, of course, enables you to track those tools, and we work closely with companies, for example, who would like to get within a meter accuracy of finding their equipment in their premises, and that's something that's possible with the 5G releases. And of course, tracking also moves to logistics. So having being secure about where your goods are along the value chain. And logistics is also particularly important for industries where the condition of the good is key, for example, pharmaceuticals and food. And environmental monitoring is also key for safety. Of course, every business wants to keep their workplace safe and secure, so being able to monitor your environment and react quickly if and when there are any issues. 5G and IoT is also a key opportunity for mobile operators, the mobile ecosystem, and the wider Industry 4.0 ecosystem. GSMA Intelligence predicts that there will be 2 billion Industry 4.0 IoT connections in 2025, and that's a threefold increase from the 660 million in 2020. Most of these connections will come from diagnostics and monitoring use cases. 18% of those connections will be licensed cellular. We predict that 10% of Industry 4.0 revenues will come from connectivity. That's from a total revenue base of $13 billion. The other 90% will be, of course, platforms, value-added services, applications, consulting, and enablement services. We expect mobile operators to take 14% of this total market as a base case. Of course, the further up the value chain, the more that's possible. As I mentioned, we work very closely with manufacturers at the GSMA, and we run the 5G IoT Manufacturing Forum, which brings together players from across the mobile and Industry 4.0 ecosystem to work together to help to solve problems, to create connections, and really help accelerate this new ecosystem. So I would encourage you to go to gsma.com/IoT/manufacturing to look at some of our resources, and do reach out if you would like to participate. And I'm very pleased now to introduce you to the first panel, which is the 5G networks for Industry 4.0. And our moderator for this first panel is Angus Ward, CEO of Beyond by Bearing Point, a rapidly growing ecosystem orchestration and digital platform provider, powering organisations to launch new services at speed and grow revenue by utilising its digital platform. Angus brings 30 years of consulting and solutions experience to his role, supporting organisations across multiple industries in shaping strategies and adopting platform-based businesses and operating models with differentiating partner ecosystems. Please welcome Angus and our panellists.
Thank you very much. So this Industry 4.0 panel, we're going to focus a little bit more on maybe the technology side. I'm absolutely delighted we've got some amazing panelists. You're in for a real treat. So maybe I can ask my panelists to introduce themselves. Maybe who are you, who do you work for, and what do you do?
Hi, sorry for spoiling your lunchtime, of course. I'm Hakim Ashouri, work for Airbus. Part of the IM and digital transformation teams, and in charge of connected factory, connected aircraft, and connected people. So this is me.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Bosko Novak. I work for Rohde & Schwarz, and as you all know, Rohde & Schwarz, of course, we support the entire value chain of the mobile industry. For this panel, I'm particularly engaged in the network assurance, network optimization, both from a spectrum as well as from an IT security perspective.
And finally, my name is Andrés Escribano. I belong to Telefónica, in the area that is responsible for all activities in our footprint for Industry 4.0 and other kind of new business. And my role basically is develop all the activities that is around the service added value in industry, and obviously the communication about the different protocols, 5G, LTE, and around our footprint.
Cool, very good, thank you very much. So maybe we start with a really, really practical first question. Hakim, so you work for Airbus. Maybe you can help illustrate Airbus's wireless connectivity strategy in terms of use cases, 5G, Wi-Fi. How does that work in a manufacturing context? Maybe you give us some use case examples.
Firstly, we've been deploying Wi-Fi for a decade, and today we have 90% of the factories connected with Wi-Fi, but we still have a lot of pain points, especially if you have to deploy paperless production tools. So the blue collars go and build the aircraft inside the fuselage. If you don't provide a proper wireless network, it doesn't work. So you have to have this at first stage. So we started analyzing the pain points. So how many tablets can connect to the wireless network, experimenting with 4G first of all, and 5G now. This is the basic, I would say, use cases. But what we see today is also the emerging use cases. So AGVs, of course. With the pandemic, we had a lot of difficulty to provide airlines with the aircraft, so remote aircraft delivery, remote quality inspection inside the aircraft. Those are the emerging use cases. Of course, we're also looking at precise indoor localization and so on.
Hello, Bosco, exactly the same question to you.
So at Rohde & Schwarz, we actually have our own private 5G network in one of our factories. And it serves at this point in time two main purposes. One thing is, of course, in order to enhance our manufacturing efficiency and quality and the yield. You might be aware that when you go to airports, you have the body scanners. You know, the things where you stand like this?
Yep.
They're our equipment. And each one of the panels has got 1,000 microwave antennas in there in order to measure. And so we manufacture that in the factory, and this is where we are now going to deploy the 5G technology for the robots and for the automation of the entire manufacturing process. So that's one side. At the same time, of course, we provide, so network assurance is very important. You go to any production manager and they want to inspect what they expect. They want to know that everything works, and their mistrust regarding the 5G performance is, of course, very high. They know Wi-Fi and they know all the wireless networks. So we provide assurance tools, software, analytics, smart analytics, and of course we use our factory environment for 5G in order to look at the propagation, to look at the reflections, look at the latency. So it's really a playground also for us at this point in time.
Very good. So Andreas, you've heard two good examples of Industry 4.0. Coming from Telefonica, is looking at the real strengths of 5G and where you would recommend people use 5G. Is that what you'd expect at this stage in maturity, and maybe how would you expect that to develop?
I think it's a very good question. For us, like a telco, 5G is the first time that we have a tool that really helps the industry to transform this digital transformation journey. Let me explain why. Because it's simple. Appears basically because the new demands coming from this kind of new business, so because suffer the problems through the COVID, or because we are able to manufacture in this concept of digital product, appears the concept of wireless factory. When we're talking about the wireless factory, the word that appears associated is mobility. Basically, mobility, 5G, telcos is something that is common, it's our core business. And one thing is important is the way to deploy the 5G. It's not necessary to use the same way. We have different architecture, different way to deploy it, and at the end need to coordinate other kind of features, like for example the wireless environment, the wireless asset. It's important create something robust, reliable, that guarantee that the things are connected in the right way, and avoid any kind of problems for connection when you are to integrate this kind of elements in the factory. Other important point is we're talking that not connect only hundreds of elements, we're talking about connection of 1,000 or 100,000 elements connected and sending information. And the last one is related with the end-to-end view. For the security aspect is one important thing, but the other important topic is we don't see the factory like a silo. It's not necessarily talking only about the communication in the factory, we need to integrate the whole process. For example, the inbound supply chain, the supply chain, etc., etc. We know that this is something that is global. As you mentioned, in our regions, it's not something that can appear only in Europe. In Latin America, for example, mining companies are using the same way for us in this kind of digital transformation way, because it's common, it's the same concept: mobility, automatization, IoT integration, etc., etc. Means we consider that 5G again is an enablement that we need to this concept of the wireless factory.
Cool, very good. So I guess Kim, you're well on the journey. I guess for many people, 5G is something which is happening now, which they're looking forward to what might happen in terms of rollout of 5G, but you're kind of more mature than that. So in terms of the key learnings, what have you learnt on this journey? Maybe sharing with people, what would you do differently? What are the strengths? What are the key learnings here?
The main point is to build an end-to-end system from the device and the use case and the back end.
Yeah.
So I was comparing this to a Swiss watch mechanism, actually, and 5G is one of the cog wheels, right? And AI is another one, and so on. So you have to have the whole thing, as Andres just said. we built the strategy because we think that we can start today. So we can start with 4G, we can start with 5G NSA, and we start explore 5G SA. Devices are still immature. You have to make it mainstream. Yeah? If you have to compare it with Wi-Fi, it has to become mainstream. So the SIM card is another one, and so on.
Very good. I guess one of the key themes that Andreas picked up on was around security. And so for many people, why 5G would be because of security. And clearly, you're talking about mission critical business processes, talking about the risk of ransomware, cyber attack. So how, in terms of security, how have you approached that? And how has that become a real factor for you?
Yeah, and talking about the trust, as I mentioned earlier, the security issue is a very important one because nobody will allow a wireless technology to be in the factory environment unless it protects. And of course, if you look at what happened in the last 10 years, we've really been on a steep learning curve on security, very clearly. And security, we know how to security parameter through the technology. But what's very important is also to look at the unexpected interferences, be it through the spectrum, because you just have interference from outside, be it intended or unintended jamming. You have then also security issues from inside. I can share with you that with our DPI, Deep Packet Inspection Engine, we looked at our own network in our factory, and we found 2 machines that continuously tried to connect outside, right? So how to handle that in a bigger environment when the factory manager doesn't have the means which we have in order to detect and solve that. So pattern recognition, deep packet inspection, being able to act in an automatic way, have the machine learning on top of that, and smart analytics and drive this forward is very important. And it's not just because of the technology, but it's because of the trust of the factory managers. If they don't have the trust, and I think you deal with them every single day, right?
I mean, there is also this, has to integrate into the enterprise IT system in terms of guidelines, cybersecurity guidelines, and so on. IT, the enterprise is still very much based on, Wi-Fi and LAN technologies.
Yes.
The telco domain hasn't penetrated into the enterprise as so far.
Yeah, and connecting those 2 things, the possibilities of the connectivity plus then the IT security issues through OT and IT technology, I think that really be the key.
So has it been a real factor in your choice between 5G and Wi-Fi? What do you choose? When do you choose it? Is that, because clearly with SIM-based security as opposed to open Wi-Fi?
Yeah. I've been in the industry for a long time, and we've had this one technology or the other technology discussion every single time.
Yep.
I've learned it's always the and not the versus.
Yeah.
Right? But having said that, if you look at automation today in the industry environment, you can see which processes work well on Wi-Fi, and you can see where we've got some issues.
Yeah.
And so I think we will have quite a number of processes still running on Wi-Fi in the future, but everything that is real time, everything that requires an intelligence in the automation, where you need to go into the machine learning algorithms, you need to go back into your servers, you have to have this low latency. This is where 5G will come in.
Very good. That's maybe a good segue for my next question for Andreas, which is really, so you were starting to talk about other technologies here, AI, machine learning, robotics, and that's probably another context to look at this, 5G and Wi-Fi conversation. So Andreas, in terms of the other technologies, how would you see technology strategy might reflect your choice of connectivity?
I think it's interesting. I think today we have, for the first time, a technology that is possible to combine something that is very useful for industrial, that is the computing and communication, and it's the edge computing. The thing related specifically for industrial edge computing. Again, it's the first time that in the same space, virtual space, or in the same element, we're able to deploy components that is used for the 5G or for the network, and components that you use for the added value service or other kind of use case support in the same space. This is something important. It's very important because we are able to optimize many things: security, reliability, throughputs, and so on and so on, and simplify the way to deploy in a very easy way many use cases over the same infrastructure. This is very important because we are able to replicate for many companies or for many sites in the same company. It's something simple. This is for me critical because it's close to the communication, and obviously it's something that we have today. Secondly, is all related with artificial intelligence. It's the first time that we are obtaining a huge amount of data coming for the sensor, for this kind of mobilization offering by the 5G of another kind of technology that is integrated in the industry 4.0 factory, and take the decision now in the post. We anticipate the decision based in this data and take decision really because we have this information obtained for the different sensors and so on. It is a mix between artificial intelligence, obviously, and Internet of Things, because it's the part that obtains this data. And the last one for me is all things related, and it's completely different, but help a lot, is the concept of blockchain. And why blockchain is integrated in this kind of technologies? Because remember that we are work in a digital place that all people need to work together. If we have an element that is communicated and created this trusted or this layer of trust for this kind of relationship, we are able to create digital relationship between different companies in the ecosystem in general. And for me, it's the three more relevant technologies that is massive, is available today, and the question is how is possible to accelerate the adoption in our market, no?
Cool. So Hakim, I guess if I just look at that sort of technologies and you get your crystal ball out and you start to look at the future of how Airbus may start using different 5G and other connectivity, how do you see yourself applying those different technologies?
Again.
So if you look at some of the technologies that Andreas talks about, and you take your crystal ball and you look at the future, where you're heading, how have you used 5G so far? What kind of technologies do you think you'll be leveraging at Airbus, and how do you think you might be combining them to create those end-to-end processes you talked about?
Well, supply chain logistics is clearly one of the big subjects, which mixes up and ties up with indoor tracking and precise tracking. AGVs is please connect me kind of thing.
Yeah.
Edge computing is still work in progress because you have to develop the application that needs edge computing, right? Although we are already deploying HoloLenses, for example, in certain projects, and we have a project called Mira, or mixed reality. So the blue collars will use their tablets with the 3D aircraft plans. When you put it next to the aircraft parts, it shows you where the different circuitry and brackets should be mounted. So this kind of applications are truly outstanding, I think, to me.
Very good. Bosco, same question for you.
Yeah, so I support, of course, all the applications which we just talked about. I think the service, the life cycle service will be an important part later on, especially when it comes to virtual reality and in a distributed service environment, having an opportunity to actually support the guys out there in a very different way. I think we'll see these new technologies coming in. As I said, the important thing at the end will be how do we make sure that the networks are secure and that they work. Because today's performance of the networks, I think we heard it in the keynote, there will be hundreds of thousands of interactions every single second. Somehow I've got an echo here. And that means that the network performance needs to be so precise. And it's not good to detect a dropped call afterwards.
Yeah.
It needs to work every single time. And that's where network assurance is so very important.
Cool. So finally, Andres, any final thoughts on what you've heard?
For me, maybe the summary for this kind of thing is we need to massify the use of this industrial 4.0 use case. We have the technology mature enough. We have the combination of the right technologies to offer something disrupt. And we are in the right moment for many reasons. I think several of them are not in the more positive way, but we need to react and prepare our factories and our way to manufacturing this kind of digital product using this kind of technologies, and that is available and we are able to use today like a part of our digital transformation like a companies.
Cool. So thank you very much to my panelists. A really good conversation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so once again, a big thank you to Angus and all our panelists, Andreas, Bosco and Hakim. So we'll just wait a couple of minutes now to do some disinfecting ahead of our very exciting keynote. So just a few minutes. Right, so now for our keynote presentation, which will be by Elise Neel of Verizon. Elise is Vice President of New Business Incubation at Verizon, where she harnesses her experience in new business development, big data platforms, geospatial intelligence, analytics, and the IoT to directly fuel Industry 4.0. Elise's team houses industry experts in the areas of location technology, aerial and terrestrial robotics, industrial IoT, and other emergent technologies. Elise is also an advocate for women in technology and is the co-lead of the Women's Association of Verizon Employees Employee Resource Group. So I'm very excited now to welcome to the stage Elise.
Well, I am so delighted to be with you here today in person, human to human, and a huge thank you to the GSMA for pulling off this important and transformative industry event. Today, I want to share with you how Verizon is helping to shape the new 5G ecosystem as we listen to customers and opportunities in the areas of Industry 4.0 and IoT. But before we get started, I think it's important to level set so we can understand some of the definitions around Industry 4.0. As we think about those definitions, I kind of think about Industry 4.0 being defined a little bit like the word gourmet. The definition is in the eye of the beholder. And so to level set again today, I thought we could start with 4 key attributes. When we think about Industry 4.0, it's about interconnection, data transparency, high degrees of technical assistance, and decentralized or distributed decision-making. We see attributes of these Industry 4.0 characteristics showing up in products and services like artificial intelligence and connected devices, and frankly, much of what you've seen actually out on the floor today. And while each of those components are considered frontier technology, none of them fully recognize the promise of Industry 4.0. The promise of Industry 4.0, what we are so excited about, is the combination of these elements working together in an autonomous, self-improving process that mixes products, services, and work to the most appropriate resources. Industry 4.0 is not one product. It's not one thing. It is a system that is a living and breathing representation of an end-to-end value chain. And that is what we're so excited about. Why? Well, because this is where 5G comes in, to help manage, connect, operate, and control a wide variety of systems in the physical, digital, and biological world. 5G is a foundational technology for Industry 4.0 because, well, simply put, in what we heard earlier, Wi-Fi and 4G just aren't sufficient in terms of managing the amount of data, the amount of speed, the reliability, and security concerns that effectively will equip this future world. As we look out at Industry 4.0 and we're listening to those customers, we understand and see that there are a wide variety of new challenges that are being presented. We've looked across that global ecosystem, and what we see is that as customers have begun to connect some things, there's fragmented digitization. And in that fragmentation, you're actually creating discontinuity in the balance of the value chain. Let me give you some examples. We see this happening in hardware with a variety of OEMs seeking to tackle very specific elements of the manufacturing process. They look and work with manufacturers and facilities who have a wide variety of vendors, each with their own vertically integrated solution, and none that have really contemplated an ecosystem of sharing or of scale. We have legacy applications and proprietary protocols that, again, don't enable this notion of sharing or interoperability. And as we look into digitization, it really doesn't take those things at the heart of the matter. We have data. We have lots and lots of data. And as we heard, that data will continue. And while that data is so powerful, most oftentimes it only applies to one area of the value chain versus a systems data approach that allows the application of machine learning and intelligence to be fed throughout that end-to-end process. And as we seek to connect more and more devices, that demand for an ultra-reliable network has traditionally been met with hardwired solutions that make implementation long, complex, and incredibly expensive. As we think about Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and even previous generations of wireless technology, we really have seen that those ubiquitous signal demands from our manufacturers, that they're just not sufficient. If Industry 3.0 brought about the connected age, we see Industry 4.0 bringing about interconnectivity and interoperability. The fuel behind that change is 5G. But it's not just about 5G. It's about a series of ecosystem enablers working together to help meet that demand for autonomy. As we think about the advancements in technology over the last 10 years, we see them happening in connectivity, in device management, in environmental context, and in data capture and processing. We see the advancements in connectivity right here at Verizon as we've led the way in 5G with blazing fast speeds, amazing throughput, speed, reliability, security, and ultra-low latency. It really doesn't get any better than that, if I do say so myself. In addition to that, as we think about device ecosystems, we have a massive IoT platform, and we've been working with customers to equip them with millions of touch points. But we are elevating that work in robotics as we seek to deploy thin client models. In those models, we're removing hardware and expensive sensoring and compute and actually putting it into the network in order to create additional efficiencies, longer battery life, and ultimately reduce the bill of materials. As we move to environmental context, we move from merely connecting the enterprise to powering intelligence for the enterprise. And that really requires giving machines sight. Machines today don't really have an understanding of the world around them. They need contextual awareness. When you think about a robot, today they're moving in a flatly two-dimensional process. I am here, and I need to be over there, but I don't understand anything around me. But in a 5G workplace, we seek not only to just connect the robots to the network, but also connect them to one another and to all of the other devices and systems that are there in a way that simply has never been done before. And when we think about data, the advancements in machine learning and AI have moved us from merely censoring and metering our environments and our processes and our tools to actually moving into prediction and action-based models that actually, again, kind of fuels and propels us into this new future for autonomy. But you don't just have to take my word for it. These are not ideas, they're not concepts, they're not kind of one-time proofs of concept. These are all live implementations on our network today. Verizon is paving the way with our innovative customers to help usher folks into this Industry 4.0 future. Do you want to see a couple examples? Come on, yes? I mean, I think it's a yes. Who wouldn't want to see it? All right, let's talk about, first, our partnership with Ghost Robotics. We've partnered with Ghost Robotics to allow us to equip buildings and enterprises with perimeter security, to analyze, deploy, and to manage large streams of data autonomously in rigorous environments over the network. The opportunity? Let's leave those dull, dirty, and dangerous tasks to robots and increase and accelerate our time to first insight. We've launched Verizon's digital space orchestration platform that helps to create, map, edit, scale, and search digital twins in real time. We've then applied spatial and semantic segmentation and analytics on top of that and connected it to WMS and ERP systems. We're now powering a new opportunity as we think about providing this foundational element for autonomy today, as we now apply predictive maintenance, warehouse health, and we work with our customers to help ensure that their valued employees are safe and efficient. We've partnered to deploy and begin to acquire robotics investments, particularly with our latest investment in Verizon's Incubed IT platform. This takes mixed fleets of robots and applies a universal software framework to allow different types of robots from different OEMs to work seamlessly and autonomously together. The opportunity? Create a giant leap forward in autonomous applications as we look to create a symbiotic relationship between robots and the humans that work around them. And we've deployed Verizon's mobile edge compute platform to help virtualize programmable logic controllers as we look at equipping that manufacturing line for changes on the fly. If COVID has taught us anything, it's about the need to be fluid and to be efficient. And so the opportunity here is to create a bridge between hardware and software and unique protocols so that we can enable the enterprises of the future to respond to their customer needs in real time. So we are so excited about the future because we're powering Industry 4.0 solutions today. This isn't something to come 10 years from now. And the invitation is here. We can't do this alone. And we know that in order to power a 5G ecosystem, we need startups and industries and corporates, hardware vendors and software suppliers to come along with us. So won't you come and help us together propel our 5G future for our responsibility and societal benefits? Thank you.
So much, Elise, for your inspiring words about your holistic approach and all the exciting work you're doing in robotics. Thank you again. Right, so now we move to our second panel, which is on business drivers and opportunities for manufacturing in the 5G era. And our host for this panel will be Tom Luzin, EY's global telco leader and TMT leader for Europe. Tom leads an integrated team of telecommunications professionals working in more than 150 countries and is responsible for driving the industry growth strategy through innovative solutions across consulting, tax, assurance, strategy, and transactions. So I'd like to welcome Tom to the stage, as well as our other panelists.
All right, thank you everybody for being part of this. You've heard about Elise. Now we need to keep the smarts and the energy up, right? Because that was like a high bar, which was great. Joined here by Nicolas Damour, who leads technology partnerships at Sierra Wireless, and with Stéphane Gervais, who's Executive Vice President for Strategic Innovations and Smart Data. So yeah, let me just go straight to it. Stéphane. Right, we've heard about 5G, fundamental technology. We've heard about how this is being applied, so great examples. Lacroix Group is where you work. You build new manufacturers, new locations. If you have to speak a little bit about sort of the key things to get right, key challenges when you set those up, and then also make a little focus on connectivity and the role that plays. Could you speak a bit to that?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm very glad to be with you guys because face-to-face, we never replace digital. Sorry, guys, about digital and operators, guys. Yeah, we had a big challenge 3 years ago, right? We are a French company, international, with 10 manufacturing sites worldwide. But we had a challenge and ambition to to move one site or to try to upgrade one EMS. So we do electronic manufacturing services. And we decided to move it, so to have a greenfield electronic manufacturing site near Angers, which is in France, and with a big investment, about 25 million euros of investment to upgrade completely and to the existing, we say, manufacturing site to a new one, brand new one. And we ask ourselves a lot of questions, right? Is it the right move to manufacture in France? And we took the bold we say, decision to say, yes, let's do it. We need to reshore, right? And to do more nearshoring as well. So we need to reinvent ourselves in terms of manufacturing, especially in electronic manufacturing as well. So at that time, we asked ourselves a lot of questions. We need also to consult a lot of people. And we met up with Orange, operator in France, where we, at that time, was 2 or 3 years ago, right? 5G was not, I would say, the main connectivity technology for manufacturing, right? And we entered in kind of co-innovation partnership where they put some 5G network in our manufacturing, the old one, so we can test and discover new use case. Even at that time, we have no idea what we can find out and discover. And was part of this about 2 years of adventure with the support of Orange to try out to change the manufacturing for the new greenfield building, which is going to be operating end of the year. So we start with, I would say, to ask ourselves the question, what else can we do differently? Mm-hmm. And the what else can we do differently was, you know, we are talking about big machine, right? Assembly machine, couple of $1 million machine that are not moving. Tomorrow in our new building, this machine can move. So you can have a flow, and you can adjust the flow and to be way more flexible with different flow of manufacturing to save time, to save money, and to be way more efficient as well. So we have to increase dramatically our flexibility to be way more efficient, to be, of course, competitive of the made in France, even though we do also made in Tunisia, made in Poland and everything. So adapting our manufacturing site to the demand, to the future demand, was this high flexibility, high efficiency. We need to automate way more than we can automate today. And to do so, we need much more data that we have today. So to add more sensors, to gather data from a different machine and from different operators as well. So what is our big challenge at time? So now we are almost on time to open our new building. And we had some, I would say, interesting tests about what we can do with 5G, which is still ongoing, right? Yeah. And we found out that, we definitely need a high-speed technology, reliable, highly secure, of course, and a mix of real-time, of course, to make sure that what we can apply in terms of decision is coming from the right information.
Hey, and Stéphane, you mentioned about the cooperation with Orange. I guess there was multiple, ultimately, players into this space to get you to where you want to be in terms of, you know, application of really the benefits of 5G in the use cases. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, we had to work with, I would say, supplier of machines, supplier of AGVs, you know, these automatic guided vehicles, to try to connect them on the 5G networks. We still are, I would say, a challenge, technical challenge for them. We need to apply for each of the use case we address. We had to work much more closely with different companies. Could be also Microsoft or this guy as well. Yeah. And what we find out, for instance, that having a new technology open up also the innovation from our employees, right? For instance, we have augmented reality. This is not as sexy as Airbus, right? It's projected augmented reality to help our operators to know what they have to do all the time. Today is working on a 4G network or Wi-Fi. It's a mix of Wi-Fi and 4G. And we believe that with 5G, we can have way more interaction with this operator for getting the work done, but also for all the, I would say, training part, and upgrading also, and changing on the fly, like the AGV, changing on the fly what has to be done as well.
Cool.
We find out as well that to make IoT device, to have IoT device display in our industry and manufacturing, and fitting our needs was difficult. We are also designing our own product. We have the heater manager kind of automatic, I would say, product doing this one. So we transform this one with a lot of sensors to be able to tune the humidity level and the temperature level in the whole factory, and to do this in real time and with all the needs. So this is going to be an upgrade of our product. However, we find out that making an IoT device for each purpose was a key challenge as well.
All right. Well, that's learning a lot here whilst you're speaking actually about the whole manufacturing process. My background being more telco, but maybe going to you, Nicola, quickly. On technology partnerships, right? That's what you focus on. And so what's the thinking behind that? Why is that important to Sierra Wireless? What are your sort of key considerations, partners that you look at?
Yeah, so partnerships in the technology and in the manufacturing field is very important. So Sierra Wireless, we've been more than 25 years in the business, and ever since we strive to bring to our customers the whole IoT communication chain, which we can do. We have devices, we've got that for many, many years now. We can provide the communication services, the data services, cloud management services, but we also recognize, and this has been seen many times, Elise was mentioning partnerships a moment ago. Yesterday we had also a speak by Angus talking about how partnerships are important. We know that to be successful for our customers, there will always be something that a single company doesn't have. It may be a product, it may be even just a perspective. So partnerships are very, very important to us. And so that's the reason why. So we've been partnering with major network operators in North America, for example, where we're headed. But also, so yesterday, Orange did announce this IoT Continuum partnership between Orange, Sierra Wireless, Lacroix, and ST Microelectronics, because in industry, the keyword Industry 4.0 seems very simple when you say it, but behind those words are really myriads of different use cases, industries where you always will need some very specific hardware, a very specific piece of software, services, whatever. And so going together to address those customers' needs and partnerships is really the only way to succeed.
Super. Elise, maybe turning to you, right? You gave a fantastic rationale of why 5G would be really bringing benefits to companies. You showed the real-time, I should say real-life examples. Are you happy with the speed at which the adoption is taking place with manufacturing companies? Is there specific initiatives that you're doing even beyond what you were showing to sort of accelerate that? Could you speak a bit to that?
Yeah, I think the short answer is no, I'm not satisfied. We can always move quicker. I think a big part about my job and incubation and driving new business is to be impatient. And so I would love for the adoption to go quicker. I think the ecosystem is still taking shape. And so from a partnership perspective, really what manufacturers are looking to do is to say, I'm eager and I'm excited about the possibilities of 5G, but I need to understand the use cases. I need to know what I can do with it and how I can help deliver immediate ROI. We've heard from customers who began testing in robotics who said, this is fantastic. I implemented a robotic solution. I was able to reduce my workload and create additional efficiency, but it's going to take me 10 years to pay it off. That's not going to work. And so as we go out to listen to the problems and challenges, it's about providing increased time to that first insight to help pay off big investments in 5G and in new applications and services. What a manufacturer doesn't want is to rip and replace, and I think probably most of you can agree with that. So it's how do we work backwards? How do we use what's there to create additional intelligence by making it easy to buy, easy to implement, and easy to get that time to first insight, because that's where the ROI comes from.
Yeah, nice. Time to first insight. Maybe Nicola, back to you. One of the things, and we spoke about it when we spoke about the partnerships and how you put together the solution. One of the key things seems to be like, you have the data on the device, or the device is emitting data. You have to pick it up by a network. Probably goes to either an edge cloud or a cloud a little bit further on. And all the time, you need to make sure that that goes with the speed and sort of the data that you want in a secure way, which doesn't seem to look like a very easy task. Can you speak a little bit about how do you get that working end-to-end in a secure, reliable way?
Yeah, so Sierra, we are mostly famous for the device part, and this is really, especially in manufacturing. So we got to keep in mind that Industry 4.0, we're not talking about smartphones where, sadly, may we say, people will dispose of their phones after 3, 4, 5 years. In these particular environments, we're talking about installations, factories, devices that will be out there for 10, 15, 20 years sometimes.
Yeah.
The network technologies, by the way, 5G is also going to be there for that long, but the device need to be extremely robust, sturdy, and that's really our key expertise. So to provide these devices extremely hardened from a hardware perspective, but also 5G is a very complex technology, so you just can't take a chipset and put it on a board and hope for it to work. So there's a lot of complex radio frequency interaction, thermal processes to be done. So providing those devices that are extremely robust, so both on the module side, but also on the integrated, we have these Airlink integrated routers line. So providing these turnkey, ready-to-use device solutions that are really sturdy, really secure. This was mentioned in a panel just before us. But also at the same time, and this is kind of the challenge here, being versatile at the same time. Because you'll need a lot of Ethernet connections. You'll need Wi-Fi 6 also as well to connect lots of equipment. You'll need public-private hybridation of networks as well. So to be able to do that, and the third point is also to provide that in an industrial and operational perspective, where it's easy to deploy, easy to manage, easy to operate, still all of that being very secure. So it's much more than a device, but I would say those 3 points, so robustness, versatility, and ease of operation are really the 3 key things to make it successful.
Cool. Maybe Stefan, back to you and sort of looking again a little bit at sort of the services that you can create, use cases that you can create using all this great technology in the robust way that Nicolas was describing. Sort of from the test that you are doing, any 1 or 2 or 3 things that really stand out whilst you're working towards, getting to the optimal way of running a factory?
Yeah, a couple of them, all right. The main one, let me start with the biggest one, all right. We have great engineers in our company, of course. We design electronics, and we design and manufacture IoT device for smart city, smart environment. And we do this well, robust products, everything. What we find out is when you don't know exactly what you want and what you're looking for in IoT, our engineers were lost. They need a specification. We don't have any specification because we are discovering new use case along the way. So we're this mature, something that we need to have a full ecosystem, right? Elise also mentioned this one. And this IoT continuum that we announced yesterday, to me, what's the main outcome is this one, because you need the connectivity to be reliable. We talk about quality of services. You need to make sure that whatever device you deploy is working in France, is working also in Germany, in Spain, or wherever you want to deploy them. You need also to have the best technology within your IoT device. Mm-hmm. So Sierra Wireless and ST are providing microcontroller and all the radio. And outside, of course, we provide the manufacturing. And if you have all the chain, then offering from testing with a proof of concept to the deployment, in between having all the phase where what you start to develop at the experimentation phase is going to be the same work and the same investment when you deploy. That was missing, and we have not found something in the industry to do that. So one of the main outcomes is this IoT Continuum partnership with all these guys. And we hope that it's going to help way more companies to deploy IoT. And I joined Elise, right? You are a bit frustrated. We are also frustrated as a manufacturer, right? One of the, I would say, ideal goal is to get a digital twin of our industry, of our factory.
Yeah.
A real digital twin, not a BIM, right? We want something that we can simulate whatever is going to be the outcome, and we can deploy new way of manufacturing to be way more efficient. And we still have a lot of work to do on this one.
That's great. Yeah, and on the, let's say, frustrated, I think Elise was more impatient than frustrated.
Don't worry, Stefan.
Yeah.
We're now friends, so we'll be in touch. Yeah.
But you know, maybe some reassuring info. We did some research, and actually, 5G is the #1 technology that enterprises want to invest in the next 2-3 years, and manufacturing is actually scoring highs, at least to sort of what we see. Maybe final question to you, Elise, sort of looking out maybe the next 2-3 years, right? Network slicing is maybe coming in, playing a bigger role, 3D, location information. What are the 2-3 things that you're most excited about thinking about next 2-3 years out?
Whew, there's so many things. I think maybe I'll give you 3 to chew on. And I talked a little bit about it earlier. The first is, I think autonomous mobile robots are going to change the face of industry. But in order to actually have them deliver on the promise of automation and autonomy, you need 2 additional components that we're really beginning to launch and deploy now, and we see the industry coming around. The first is that environmental context. What else is there, whether that's through digital twinning or other types of simulation-based components? The reality is that manufacturers don't just want to drop in a set of robots and hope that they work. There's planning, there's security, there's regulation that we need to work with ahead of time, pre-installation, to ensure that the factory doesn't miss a beat and actually has an opportunity to participate in the ROI that can be delivered through the robotic solution. So environmental context is a big one. Precise positioning is important. We talked, I think Aruna mentioned early on that we're really trying to get to a meter accuracy indoors. We recently just made an investment and announced it last week of an acquisition that gets us to centimeter level accuracy indoors. We believe that in order to navigate, to understand, to do proper inventory management, and to design those facilities, that you have to have that precision in place. So robotics, environmental context, and positioning, I think, are going to be major advancements and opportunities in the next 2 years. And then we're off. Yeah. That's
been super. Thank you very much, Elise, Nicolas, Stefan. Hope you all enjoyed it and learned a bit along the way, and look forward to see you all next year or maybe in the coming days.
Thanks for
Thank you very much.